Oh man, I had the worst night last night with my computer. It just like it ran out of space. I have a MacBook Pro. I probably got it, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months ago. And I mean, I'm just kind of behind with technology. I think it's because I've done so much prison time. You find that a lot with people that have done a lot of time. I used to be really good with computers when I was younger, and I did a 5 year term, and then I just did another 16 months. And it may not seem like a lot changes in 5 years or 16 months, but like when I went the first time, they had the first generation iPhone. When I got out, they had the 5S. There was no FaceTime, there's no Siri, there's no Spotify. Facebook was barely a thing. I think when I left, it was still exclusive just for college kids, where you had to have like an EDU, email account just to have, just to be on Facebook. It wasn't for everybody. It was just for people with college email addresses. So I come out, and everybody has been evolving, with technological evolution, except for me and for everyone that's been incarcerated. It's like almost like being on an island for years with no technology. I mean, we'd read about it in magazines and everything, but it's a little different than being able to actually hold a smartphone or go on Facebook, and everything just started changing pretty rapidly. And then even 16 months, things changed. Um, while it's happening in real time, you don't really notice. And I just got behind, with technology. And so, I mean, like I hardly understand how all the storage stuff works. I got a new external hard drive that has 3 terabytes. So hopefully my computer starts working with better efficacy. But yeah, I mean, last night it was really annoying. I'd be recording a video, I'd be halfway through, and it would just stop and it wouldn't save. And it happened to me 2 different times. And I tried different software. I record in Zoom because it automatically compresses the video so it uploads quicker. And it was crashing. Then I tried Photo Booth, which I used to use, but it takes longer to upload. Then I tried QuickTime, all the same. So my shout out to my friend Jeremy, who did the team viewer or whatever, helped me out, showed me that I was pretty much out of storage, and that I needed to get an external hard drive and use it. So I have that now. So hopefully I won't have technological issues with storage or with my computer anymore. Still have horrible fucking Wi-Fi though. So it's like, that's the next thing to go, or to get, and is to get better Wi-Fi. I tried to get better Wi-Fi a couple months ago, and apparently it didn't help. So you got to try again. So anyway, let's get into the video. Like, comment, subscribe, patreon.com/Ryan Leone. Why is my phone still getting text messages on airplane mode? See, there we go. I don't know. Technologically handicapped. Like, comment, subscribe, patreon.com/Ryan Leone. There's new things going on Patreon. More exclusive storylines, and I'm going to start releasing like chunks of the documentary on there. Because the festival seasons are hindered. So check it out. All right. So last time we were talking about, basically I just met Zach, and he kind of started helping me out. He paid Jeff rent so that I was able to rent out the gay psychic's old room. So now I had a place to live. Before that, he started getting me Airbnbs, hotels, and he was having me come down to LA after we had done the Resurrection sizzle and trying to sell that to other networks. I'd gone down there a couple times. At one point, he took me to the set of the Nine Club, which is, I don't know if I talked about it in another video, but it's a skateboarding talk show. They basically, I mean, it's like any talk show, but it's all pro skateboarders. So I really like that show. And I'd never even heard of it, but at one point he took me to a house in Venice Beach where they record that, and I got to sit in on it. And that was cool. He was plugged in with like a lot of pro skateboarders. And I mean, I didn't have too many Hollywood connections at the time. I had more in like television. I knew Jim Olds, who was a screenwriter of Fight Club, and then of course Will De Los Santos, because he had optioned Wasting Talent, the guy that wrote Spun. He was also one of the producers of it. But I mean, between us, with his pro skater connections, and he also knew some television networks as well. We had enough resources to at least get meetings. So, as I've explained, we'd go to meetings, we'd pitch Resurrection. My my biography was on one of the marketing deck slides, so people started saying, "Well, what about this guy? This guy sounds like he sounds like a complete loser, drug dealer, pimp, writer." And we'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, they're like, this is pretty much custom made for streaming networks. This hits on everything that people like. And we're just like, Eventually, and I'm just, kind of giving a little catch up so that it helps me know where we're at in the story. And then eventually Jim Olds, I talked to him about it, and he said it was a great idea. Then I asked, we kind of started talking about him becoming the writer, and then he decided that he wanted to pursue being the writer. They wanted to write for it. It's part of the Writers Guild. So there, there's, they have a lot of regulations, you have to be a WGA signatory company to hire a Writers Guild member. So we had to get Zach owned. He had incorporated his business, I don't know, a few years before that. So if you were an incorporated business, you just sign up for the signatory status, and you typically get approved, and it's free. So as soon as Jim said that he wanted to come on as the writer, that's kind of when like it all just started coming together. It was like spotlight was not on me at all. I was living in abandoned houses. I was beating off to porn on my iPhone in public bathrooms. I was fucking homeless, and I was just trying to, I don't know. I just saw that Antoine would make a good show. I still to this day think that would have been a great show. I think that oftentimes networks are completely tone deaf, don't really understand what the millennial generation wants to see. They put on a lot of bullshit television, and I think that's why conventional television's kind of drowning, and the subscription models are becoming the dominant entertainment source now for the newer generations. But now that it was looking like there was going to, I mean, as soon as Jim said that he wanted to be the writer, it was like, from the screenwriter of Fight Club, it like legitimized the whole thing so much. And then I told Santos about it, and of course he's like part of Wendy Benj, who's a producer, and she's worked with Oliver Stone. She was one of the producers for one of his movies, I think W, and also Chris Hanley, who had produced American Psycho, Buffalo 66, Bully. I mean, like movies that I really, really liked. So it was crazy. It all kind of came together at once. Now, I think at the end of last video, I was showing Karina the video that I did before this. I think it was 13, I want to say. I think we're on 14 is what you're watching now. And, she watches my videos here and there, but because I was talking about Dave, the guy that was telling me that China called. I mean, it was really funny, and it was like an inside joke with Zach and Karina and I for like a really long time. So I showed her that, and she was wearing these headphones, on Bluetooth, and she was listening to it, and I was like making coffee or something, and she just started laughing. She was like really laughing. And I mean, she's like hard to make laugh. I have to like juggle like grapefruits and stick like shampoo bottles up my ass while I'm juggling, and then like try to like rip the shampoo bottle up, like throw it between my legs and like catch it with my mouth, and like No, I don't know. I have to really try to make her laugh though. It's not as easy as like, other people. I'm just like, you ever heard of a butt fucking Congo line? And people are like, yeah. She's not like that at all. She's like, a butt fuck, grow up, Ryan. You're so immature. That's just like not even a butt fucking Congo line. You know how that does that even happen? I was like, Google it. She Googles it and she's like, oh my God, this is happening all over the world in secret societies. I was like, I've been saying it. The butt fucking Jesus, those dogs are so annoying. But anyway, the point is it's really hard to make Karina laugh. And she's just like laughing hysterically as she's listening to Dave. He calls. He's like, China called. China? You remember I was like, the wrestler? He's like, the country. I was like, what the fuck? I remember I was at Karina's house. So like, I think at that point, if I remember correctly, I hadn't quite moved into Jeff's condo yet. It was like the right before that, where I was kind of like bouncing around Airbnbs that Zach was paying for, hotels, staying with friends, just kind of being a ping pong ball and going from like house to house, taking the public bus quite a bit at that point. And I remember Karina's parents would go to work around 6. So a lot of times I would like get there right at like 6:30. She'd cook me breakfast. We'd watch the news. We'd have sex every day. And, so I remember being at her house early when he had called and said the China thing. So I think that I hadn't, maybe I did have maybe I was at Jeff's condo. I don't really remember. But, that became this big inside joke, with Zach. Like he texts me and he'd be like, dude, China just DM'd me on Instagram. I'd be like, no way, the country? He'd be like, he'd like send 100. I'd be like, I already spoke with them last week. They already DM'd me. They wanted a collab. He's like, me too. And so that became like a big inside joke. But anyway, when Karina was listening to that, she's like, damn. She's like, I cannot believe, especially for how horrible of a dope fiend you are, how accurately you remember that. She's like, I forgot about a lot of that stuff until you said it. Like when he had ordered the Coke with the debit card, he's like, you guys want a soda? Or like, yeah, sure. He's like, can I see your debit card? Hey, let me get 3 drinks. You're welcome. Like weird shit like that. And, he was a fraud. I mean, he basically he's telling us that he was the agent of some guy named, it wasn't Levin. I actually looked it up on IMDb because I got curious after I did that video. And the guy's name is Michael Levy, Levy. He doesn't have a picture on IMDb, which, I mean, that happens. Sometimes you're credited and you don't like pay the monthly subscription to be part of it. And that's how you get the photo. If you're like a famous celebrity, you have management companies doing that. But I was right. He did produce Die Hard 2, which Dave never let me forget, He'd be like, did you know? He didn't talk like that. Did you know that Die Hard 2 was actually an Oscar consideration in 1994, whenever it came out, 1991? Dave. For what category, Dave? Best actor, Bruce Willis. Duh. Dave. Bruce Willis was never considered for an Oscar for Die Hard. He's like, you just don't know. You're not a Hollywood insider yet. But after you know Trejo and Quentin Tarantino, you'll know. Michael Levy's the most underrated talent in all of Hollywood. So I IMDb'd this guy, and I did way, way, way back in the day, and that's why I put him on blast. I mean, that first time that I'd met him at that club, I think it was called the Verizon Club or like the Sprint Club, or it was like some sort of phone company club, if I remember. I should ask Karina what the name of the club was, but so I looked this guy up on IMDb, and he he produced Die Hard 2, Predator 2, Which, you know, and I'm not like, I don't really like to shit on someone's creative vision or anything, but Die Hard 2 was horrible. And I love Die Hard. I love Die Hard with the Vengeance. I love the new installments. I thought Bruce Willis was I mean, not, wasn't no Oscar worthy performance or anything, but it was, those were, those were great movies. I watched Die Hard. I consider that, it's like in our Christmas movie collection. That, Reindeer Games, Home Alone, you know, the shit we watch like every year. So I mean, Predator 2 and Die Hard 2 are the ones that I'm remembering. He had been the executive producer for a number of these big action films. And in case people don't know what it sounds really impressive. Well, I executive produced Die Hard 2. Executive producer can mean that you had an instrumental role in the film, but it can also mean that it's also used as a bargaining chip. Like, you know, I want Arnold Schwarzenegger to be in this movie. Okay, well, let's hit him up. He says no. Agent says no, because, you know, they go to the agent. They usually have like a whole team. And I'm going to get into all that because I learned all this stuff as I go. But executive producer, so Arnold says no. The agency says no. They're not going to do it. But there's a friend, but they really want Arnold. And there's a friend that is good enough friends with Arnold who can be persuasive, talk him into being in the film. And then they award that person an executive producer credit just for making that happen. That's just one of like many examples. Sometimes if you middleman the financing, like if they need $5 million for this film, you know, some like Wall Street stockbroker that has a bunch of like capital saved up, you middleman it, you get a 10% finder's fee of that capital for the funding, and you also get an executive producer credit. So executive producer in film doesn't necessarily mean that you're a big time producer. The title producer, just producer without executive. And I know it sounds like you think, well, executive, you think of somebody with like a fucking tuxedo and top hat, like with a cane, like, you know, that guy right there. It's exactly what I was imagining. Some executive, but executive producer is really like not the big one. And then what's interesting is in the television world, it's the complete opposite. Producer is like the secondary executive producer, but the title executive producer means that you actually are the top dog producer. So it's really confusing. It's probably like that on purpose. I think they make it all confusing so that like they make it esoteric so that like civilians, the non film or television people, like can't understand their codes and shit. Um, you know, so anyway, what? I don't know. That thought sounded better in my head than before I said it out loud. So the fact that he was bragging about Michael Levy, some obscure executive producer that doesn't have a picture on IMDb, should have been the first fucking red flag. The fact that he was trying to, oh God, I got to get to the food bank before 5 p.m. The food bank? What kind of agent are you? I mean, you can't, you have to go to food banks, which, like I said, I have nothing against food banks. I was doing that 8 or 9 months ago because we had nothing, literally. Like, couldn't even, we could barely pay rent, and what was left over, like, it was hardcore, you know. Nico came first. Karina and I pretty much did ramen maintenance, and if we could afford anything extra, we got it. Food banks really helped us out. So it's like if I ever become really rich, I'm always going to donate to food banks and help with those because I remember how much we appreciate it, how much we needed it, you know. And I was working my ass off. I was commuting, going to like a boiler room telemarketing place. It's not like I was just mooching, you know, like bumming food off people. But he was trying to act like he was doing volunteer work there, and he was using the food bank to feed himself. So all of these things should have been a red flag. Anyway, point is, and the reason I bring up all this stuff and remind everyone of it all is, you know, and remember Steve, a guy that I'd met at the in the telemarketing industry, it was the one that had made a introduction to Dave telephonically. And, you know, Steve's a harmless old Pink Floyd fanatic pothead, you know? In fact, when I went and saw him in person, I brought him a signed Pink Floyd vinyl, the Animals vinyl, signed by Roger Waters, which is probably worth a shitload of money. And I was just like, here, you can have this, because I thought that, you know, giving away stuff like that, like, I've always, you know, kind of looked at the film industry or the entertainment world like that. Like, you want to leave impressions on people, even though he was the wrong. That guy did nothing for me, and I'll get to how royally I got fucked over by him and this guy. It's all part of this saga leading up to prison. But you know, so I gave him this vinyl. But anyway, so this guy Steve would just smoke pot, and he was pretty burned out. He smoked like swag out of a wooden pipe in like 2016, where he could like go to a dispensary and get like really good bud for probably like the same price that he's paying for this swag. Anyhow, I remember after I met Dave, Steve called me. He's like, "Hey, brother, I heard that I don't know, little birdie told me that you got an agent now." Steve was like one of those like sleazy cokeheads in like an 80s movie. He wasn't a cokehead, but you know, the type that like had like, you know, the beard, and like he's just like kind of like a sleazeball. He didn't even have a beard, but if you know what I'm talking about, that kind of person, you know, with like the little snake eyes and the glasses and the rosy cheeks, because he's always smoking pot and getting wasted on alcohol. He's straight up alcoholic as well. Um, Little birdie told me that you have an agent now. I was like, an eight? What the fuck? I was like, are you talking about Dave? I said, Steve, Dave's like a homeless guy. He's literally homeless. And he dropped this name, Michael Levy. Do you know who that is? He's like, Michael Levy is honestly one of the greatest producing talents in all of Hollywood. A tourist for or whatever. Or no, a juggernaut is what he said. Like I was like, Steve, Die Hard 2? Predator 2? If those came out today, they'd be straight to fucking Netflix, or not even straight to Redbox, you know? Steve's like, well, you don't know what he's working on now. I was like, well, I said, look, and then Dave called and he said that China called. He's like, China? I was like, yeah, China. He's like, the wrestler? I'm like, dude, he said the fucking country, like the Republic of China called him. Steve was like, what? That's far out. I wouldn't put it past Dave. He's been known to throw a few curveballs, if you know what I mean. He had that annoying thing where he'd talk in riddles just like Dave. So I guess Dave had told him that I was his new client. So now, not only did he represent Michael Levy, who he met in an elevator, but he also represented Ryan Leone, the author of Wasted Talent. You know, because that's how these people were. They couldn't pronounce my name. They couldn't remember the name of my book. You know, they thought it was Wasted Talent, and my name was Ryan Leone. So now he represented me and Michael Levy. And it didn't take me long to like kind of figure out what kind of guy he was, you know. Yeah, oh yeah, I know Danny Trejo. Well, Danny Trejo, you know, is involved in the recovery community in LA, and he does a lot of charity and volunteer work with homeless guys. I mean, Danny Trejo's a good dude. Pretty sure that's how I met him. But anyway, so he starts calling me, and I just kind of entertain the notion that he knows Quentin Tarantino and that I'm his new star client. I think he was excited because I was 32, I had already gotten a film deal, and now there was a documentary being made about me by the dude that wrote Fight Club, the screenwriter of Fight Club. So, you know, to him, I think he was like, "Ooh, I can get in on this young." I mean, that's how a lot of these Hollywood guys are. You know, they prey on your naivety. So, you know, he would call me and he'd be like, "Hey, are you sure that you can't get David Fincher through Ulz. You know, he'd always like call Jim by his last name, like they'd known each other for years. Jim had no idea who this guy was. Hey, do you think you can ask Ulz if he can shoot me David Fincher's digits? No, Dave. David Fincher's an A-list fucking director. I'm not gonna get his phone number from Jim. Jim wouldn't even give me his phone number. I you know, I know he wouldn't. So anyway, so at one point, Dave calls me and he's like, you know, because he had told me from the get-go that he was going to introduce me to Quentin Tarantino. So he calls me and tells me, okay, I've got it all set up with Quentin Tarantino for you to come down and meet him. I was like, oh, really? And like I explained in the last video, it's always possible. And this is what I found. This is another thing that I found. Okay. So as I've been in LA, I've been in Los Angeles for years. So I started like being around pretty well-known musicians, more actors and writers than musicians, but a few musicians here and there, rappers mostly. I don't know too many rock musicians, but a few. So, you know, in the beginning, I would look at famous people and put them on some pedestal. Like nowadays, I drop their name because by like association, I think maybe it makes me look better. But I'm starting to learn that that's pretty tacky and that that's not even true. I'm just like watching what other people in LA have done, and I'm like, so I'm kind of just getting over it. But I had met some well-known people along the way, and the more and more that I'd meet famous people, the more disillusioned I got by the whole thing. You know, you think that like that. So okay, let me give you a great example. I like Rage Against the Machine, or at least I did when I was like 9, back when I was playing Doom and jerking off to Carmen Electra and Jenny McCarthy. And I liked Rage Against the Machine, even though I had no idea what was going on. You know, I didn't know that they were like, you know, left-wing extremism. Like I didn't really understand all that stuff when I was that age. But I got older, stopped liking them as much. Listened to them in prison when I worked out, shit like that. But you know, I started understanding like their politics and that they're essentially Marxists. You know, which you know definitely like rallies against like the oligarchy or like the monopoly, the patriarchy, all that kind of shit. They just did a reunion tour, or they were going to. I think COVID-19 fucked it up, and they're charging like $500 for the low end tickets. The high end tickets were like 60,000. And I'm just like, oh my god! Like their entire image is based on like power to the people, and then they've they get rich and they become what they've been rallying against, which you see happen with politicians all the time. So that's just like one example how they're like there's a lot of like there's image, there's the way that celebrities and famous people like want you to think they are, and then there's how they are in person. When you meet them in person, you find a lot of times that they have a complex because they think that they're like way above you anyway, and they're bizarre. You know, I hear weird stories all the time. I knew I'm not going to say his name, but I knew I know I know this guy who's pretty well known actor. He's known for being like a dirtbag, you know. And I mean, I'm not like really friends. I partied with him a few times, but I was partying with him this one time, and we had there were these girls at his house, and he was having them fart on slices of grapefruit. Like he had these slices of grapefruit on like on this plate, and they were like all sliced up, like slices, like you know, like slices like that. They were like thin. So he had them like in a line on these plates on a table, and there was a bunch of blow. Everyone was snorting coke. Yeah, these girls, and they were running around. These girls were running around naked. The more coked out he got, the more perverted. He was already a fucking weirdo, but he's like, oh. No. And he's calling it tooting. He's like, can you guys toot on that? It was like such a. I mean, I was like, ugh, I'm gone. So I left, at least that area of this place. Like where it was kind of, I don't know, like not like maybe 20 people there. I come back like maybe an hour later, and I swear to God, he has like 4 or 5 women squatting over these little slices of grapefruit, farting on them. Like, and he's like, I mean, farting on demand's pretty hard, and he's like getting angry at them. He's like, dude, like spittles coming out, and they're just like sitting there, and they'll be like, and he'll just grab it and put it in his mouth, and like he chews on it to the point where like the fluid like comes out, like drips down his chin. Disgusting weirdo shit like that. So anyway, over the years of being around these debaucherous people, and like the more and more like I'd be around people like this, I just got disillusioned by the whole thing. But back then, I was still, deeply. I bought into the whole thing, like the whole scam of it. Like, they're larger than life. But when you actually see it, like a lot of them are weirdos, perverts, whatever, right? Not all of them. There's good people, but some of them. And what you also find with famous people is that they tend to make, like, they'll have childhood friends that are always around them, like weird, obscure people, maybe like Dave, just like super fucking weird squares that they knew, like, and they were friends with before they were famous. And famous people want to hang out with friends that they were friends with before they were famous, because they know that they're actually friends with them for the right reason. So therefore, based on that logic, I thought that maybe Dave actually did know Quentin Tarantino, and that's why I like gave him any attention. So I entertained the idea that he was my agent. So he told me that Quentin Tarantino was going to be at this event. That's all he said. Quentin Tarantino is going to be at an event with so-and-so. He said some guy's name that I'd never heard of, an actor. I was like, who? It was like some obscure name. I forget what the name was. He's like, you don't know who that is? And I was like, no. He's like, he used to be my client as well. Him and Michael Levy. But, I put way too much attention on Levy, so I had to let him go. I was like, what's his name? And he said it again. I don't know who that is. He's like, have you ever heard of a movie called Kill Bill? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, he said some like Sushi Man #7 or something. I was like, he's like an extra. He's like, no, he had lines. He had like 2 or 3 lines. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was my client. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he's going to be there with Quentin Tarantino. So I got like, I'm like, can I bring my girl? He's like, yeah. So I got off the phone. I'm like, hey, babe, do you want to go meet Quentin Tarantino next week at some event? She's like, hell yeah, I want to go. I was like, cool. And I'd asked if Zach could go too. So I called Zach and I'm like, hey, Zach, this guy Dave, just, the guy that says China called, he invited me and Karina to come down to this event, and he says Quentin Tarantino is going to be down there, and I got you in too. And Zach was like, really? That's super cool. I was like, yeah, and he was like doing so much for me at the time. Like I really felt obligated to do something like that, include him in something that like that. It's like exclusive. Around the same time, I got invited to, I forget what it was. Karina was just telling me about it when she watched the other video, because we were talking about this particular event we went to, the Quentin Tarantino one. And for whatever reason, just random coincidence, somebody had invited me to another event. I think it was an art gallery opening or some shit. I don't really remember. It was some like event that was like very intimate. Not a lot of people are going to be there. It was a list party. I think it was an art gallery show, and Marilyn Manson was going to be there. And I'd never met him, and I wanted to. I really wanted to meet Marilyn Manson, and Karina really wanted to meet Marilyn Manson too. But we kind of like weighed it out. We're like, Quentin Tarantino or Marilyn Manson, and she's like, I don't know. I guess Tarantino. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll do Tarantino. So as it gets closer to the event, the Tarantino event, Dave, he hasn't talked to me for a few days. So he ends up calling me. He goes, okay, listen, the people that are going to, host the event, they need some information about you. So can I give them your phone number so that they can ask you some questions, just some basic stuff, just so that, they can feel comfortable with you being at the event. I was like, sure. So I gave him my number or he gave these people my number. I don't remember what it was, but um, I end up talking to this lady, older lady, and she's like, "Hi, darling." Darling, hi, darling. I was like, "Hey." She talked like some like 1940s, starlet, like some like, the type. She's like, "Hi, darling." She's like, "How are you, sweetheart?" I was like, "I'm good." And she's like, "I just need to ask you a few questions. I don't know if Dave had told you anything, darling, about my particular event that goes on about once a month here down in Studio City." I was like, "No, he hasn't told me anything. He just told me that Quentin Tarantino was going to be there." So I'm like really excited. She's like, "Absolutely, Quentin will be here. Quentin's a very, very close friend of mine, darling." I was like, "Really? Okay, yeah. What do you need from me?" So she starts asking me like really weird questions. What my name is. Well, that's not a weird question. She asked me what my name is, how old I am, where I'm from, what I do for a living. Now, you know, I go through trash cans and I look for second scratch lotto tickets and I mooch off Zach. Duh. No, I didn't say that. I said that I was a professional writer. That's what I would tell people when they asked me what I did for a living, even though I didn't really make a lot, but so what? Uh, I liked being able to say that. I'm a published novelist. She's like, "Oh, that's wonderful, Doc." I was like, "Yes." And on top of that, it actually got optioned by Will De Los Santos. And I went through like my whole, like, look how fucking cool I am pitch. So she's like, taking notes or whatever. She's like, "Great, great. And what the documentary, what is the name of the documentary, doll? Can you just tell me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Idiot Savant, The Savage Life of Ryan Leon." And she's like, "Oh my God, it's an exceptional title. It's brilliant. Now I just want to tell you a little bit about me and what I do. I have, how do I put this? The most beautiful women in all of Hollywood. They're actresses to be. And this is going to be a party with you, Dave. And who are your guests?" So I start telling him about Karina. "What does she do?" I said, "She doesn't do anything. She's just taking time off. She was a hairstylist." Oh, great. Okay. Hairstyle. "And what does Zach do?" So I say that, he used to own a media company. So she's like pretty much telling me that we're going to this event and it's going to be a party, is what she said, with nothing but beautiful. She said, beautiful, big, busty actresses, if you know what I'm talking about. And these girls are desperate for fame. I'm like, what the? I'm like, okay, great, sounds good. Hang the phone up. I'm like, I think we're going to like some like eyes wide shut like sex party or something. Karina's like, "What? I don't want to do that. I'm fucking pregnant for one, and I don't know, it sounds kind of weird." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, we're sober. That would be kind of weird sober, huh?" She's like, "Yeah." So, no, but I was like, I think it's either an orgy, which I don't know. She didn't talk about any dudes. She just talked about Quentin Tarantino, which it's Quentin. Dave, which feel like you're, you know, having an orgy with Tales from the Crypt guy, but then all the biggest, most bustiest actresses in all of Hollywood, doll. So I didn't really know what the fuck it was. I really didn't. I was like, well, what does that even mean? What can it mean? Like, I just, like, what would you think if somebody was saying this? I didn't know. It sounded either like an orgy or like some sort of brothel or like some sort of like weird, like, and I'd seen it. I'd seen it in pornography where you see like a bunch of beautiful women all bent over with a bunch of asses just in a row. I mean, it's definitely something I've typed into Google. 50 hot girls bending over naked with one dude. I really didn't know what to think. All I knew is that we were going to meet Quentin Tarantino, and like I didn't have any like nice clothes or anything. So I asked my mom, um, you know, if I could rent some like really nice outfit for Men's Warehouse. And Karina's got amazing style. So my mom ends up giving me the money to go to Men's Warehouse. I forget what it was. It was pretty expensive. It was like $200 or $300 to like rent all this shit. And I got like a haircut and whatever it was like a few $100s. Like that's how spruced up I was going to get. I think we got Karina an outfit too. And we were getting all ready to go. Now, Zach, his brother, worked for Vans. He was like one of the top people at Vans, the skateboard shoe company. And he got like tons and tons of boxes of exclusive Van shoes, shit that you'll never see, prototype models and stuff. So Zach would give me like all these really expensive, exclusive, like high-end Vans that you'd never see, like shit that would probably go for like $400 or $500. You're probably like, what? There's no such thing as Vans like that. Well, yeah, you've never seen them, but they do custom make them for rich and famous people. It's true. And he just had access to it because his brother was like one of the head designers there. So anyway, he gave me like these really, really expensive Vans. On Patreon, I will post a picture of what I'm talking about. I found a picture of this today in my phone. So we were getting all ready to go. Now, for some reason, my mom wouldn't give me the car, and Zach had to pay for us to take an Uber all the way down to LA. This was in the Studio City. And then he was going to pay for us to go all the way back. So, Karina got all dolled up. And I brought Will De Los Santos as a guest too. Like, let me bring the writer and producer of Spun to this orgy with all the bustiest actresses in the industry, doll. I had no idea where I was going. And I told Santos that. Santos was like, I'm there. Let's go. I'm like, all right, cool. So, Zach ends up meeting us there. Santos meets us there, all separate cars. So we show up to this, it's right next to this really like nice Mexican food restaurant in Studio City that I've eaten at a million times. It's actually in the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I forget, I don't know, somebody goes there. It like shows two different restaurant scenes going on simultaneously. One of them's at this particular restaurant. I forgot what the name of it is. It's on Ventura Boulevard in Studios in like, Studio City, yeah. And so we park there, and I'm wearing some I'm like, this is like probably like the nicest dress I've ever, this is like the best dressed I've ever been. Karina picked it out. My mom paid for it. I had a fresh haircut. I was all like GQ'd out, and Karina was all dolled up. And then Santos comes with like a hoodie and jeans, and I was like, that's good, whatever. He wrote Spun, he's in. And then Zach came, and he was wearing a nice outfit too. And he showed up in like his new Beamer he was leasing. So we get there, still have no idea what this is. And then we just start seeing a bunch of girls. She was right. Huge, busty babes, all congregating in one area in Studio City. That's what it was. A bunch of slutty-looking girls. And I was like, they had like little short skirts on, like cleavage. Like they look like a bunch of prostitutes. I was like, okay, well, I guess the brothel theory might be what this is. So we end up going, it's upstairs. Still don't know what this shit is. We go upstairs, and I meet this woman. I'm not going to say what her name is because knowing her, she'd forever attack me. But she sees me and she's like, oh my God, Mr. Leone, I've been dying to meet you in person. Come here. I've been on your Facebook all day. Come here. I know exactly. She's like, kind of like getting close to me, and like I'm like smelling her just tacky ass perfume. I feel like I'm getting assaulted by like a golden girl or something. Like she smelled, how old women, like they think they're wearing some sexy cologne, but it smells like bug spray. That's what this shit was. And she's like, oh my God, doll. And I'm just like, Jesus, maybe this is a fucking sex party. God, I hope that I get one of the younger ones and not her. She's like fucking 80. And I'm just gonna stick with Karina and we'll have some fucking like little threesome with one of them. But stay away from Santos and Dave and Zach and all dudes. Just go to like the actors' girls. This is not what it was. It was not a sex party. We go inside and it looks like an auditorium. There's a bunch of these seats that are looking forward. Now, Zach brought a camera and a tripod to film this because he thought it would make good B-roll for the documentary. So at this point, we're pretty much in pre-production for the doc. We're in development. We're filming a few things here and there. We're just trying to compile some B-roll. We hadn't done interviews or anything yet, but we were on the B-roll part of this whole process. So there's this big auditorium, and there's a bunch of big busty babes. There's also a bunch of dudes, and I'm like, oh, fuck, dudes. I thought it was all girls. And right when we walk in there into this auditorium, they all start coming in behind us. Like, they wanted us to go first. So there's like reserved seating in the front, and it has my name, Ryan Leone, Will De Los Santos, Zach had his last name, Karina Leone is what it said, and like then there was like other VIP seats. So we just like sit down and you see like all these girls just like adjusting their breasts, looking. They're like, and I like, and Santos is sitting. So Santos is sitting on one side of me, Karina on the other, and now all these girls and all these guys too, kind of like between like probably like 20 and 27, early to mid 20s. They all just come in, this big herd of people. It's probably about 100 people, probably 70 girls, 30 guys. I go, Santos, what is this? He's like, I have no idea. You want some sour Skittles? I was like, yeah. He's like giving me some, and we're kind of just whispering. And they just start blasting oldies, like doo-wop oldies. And like, you know, all these balloons are like getting like thrown around like a beach volleyball. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm just like, this is the weirdest shit ever. And Zach's filming it. I'm like, yeah, this probably makes good footage. So then the girl, darling, she comes up and she's like, okay, everybody. And the music goes off. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much for attending tonight. This is a party that I do once a month with some of the bustiest, most talented bitches in the entire industry, as well as some of the most handsome, devastatingly talented men that I've ever had the pleasure of training. I'm like, Santos, I think it might be a sex party. I really don't know what's going on here. And she's like, so first of all, I want to introduce our guests. So she like introduces the people on the left. So there's a whole nother row with VIP people, and then we're like in our own row where it's like where Zach is supposed to be on the end, but he's in the corner like filming. Santos, me, Karina, and then there's like another row, and there's like 4 other people. And she's like, this is so-and-so. He is the founder of, you know, and she says like some network, like the E-Entertainment Network. Everyone starts applauding. This is Michael Levy, producer of Predator 2. No, he wasn't there. But it was like somebody like that, another producer, and then there was an actor whose titles include Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2. Everyone starts clapping. Then it gets to me. This is Ryan Leone, best-selling author of Wasted Talent. He's got 2 films that are looking for talent tonight. Love in Vain is looking for casting. Idiot Savant, The Savage Life of Ryan Leone, is looking for casting. Then I totally, I'm like, oh my God, no way. Are we at some sort of like acting studio? Are these a bunch of kids in acting school? And she's inviting us here, trying to whore these girls out to us. Like that's what, like, I think that's what she, like, it became clear to me that that's what this was. And she like tries to get people that, because oh, Dave was there too, right? And you know, Dave was like wearing his like best. It was like a leather camel jacket that he got from with like, you know, sending in Camel Cash back when Camel Cash came with Camel cigarettes. You could like save up and get like a Camel like duffel bag or like a Camel cigarette like you know, leather jacket. And it was like that kind. It had like obnoxious like turquoise on it. It said like Camel cigarettes, you know, and like had some like catchphrase below it. That's what he was wearing. He's like, and you know, he had like kind of like gelled a little like white like, you know, wisp of like hairs that were coming out. He like gelled them together. He looked weirder than he did before. He looked like the dude from Kingpin, the movie. Bill, I think Bill Murray, his hair is like that. But anyway, so I'm like, Jesus Christ. So that's exactly what it was. All of these kids start acting out scenes in movies, and they're horrible. They're horrible. These people got hustled, and it became achingly clear what this was. This woman, Darlin, would have people take her acting class. I guess she was like, I don't know, some C-list actress in like the 50s or something. Now she's just some old lady that wears like pearls and like turquoise, like, you know, mood ring necklaces and like weirdo shit like that. And, you know, and so she teaches these classes and then she invites people that like aren't really on shit, you know, like maybe a few, but I got the impression that all the guys on the other, like the founder of some TV network, the actor that was in like Kill Bill and like some other obscure Kill Bill was like his claim to fame, and there were some other obscure titles I never heard of. I think those guys were there, and she was like offering these girls like, hey, you can fuck these girls, just make it look like you're casting for a movie. I mean, some fucked up stuff, you know. And then, you know, we're just all kind of sitting there like, damn. And then I think we were like duped, and I think she does that. Hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna plug my laptop in. So I think she does that. You know, she'll invite like people like that don't really know the whole get down. Um, and so, you know, we get there and we're surprised and we're just like have to be polite. So we're just like clapping and watching all these lame acting, doing all these skits. And I guess it kind of worked out to our benefit because Zach was filming like me in the audience, like laughing and like eating sour Skittles with Santos, me kissing Karina. We're like in some VIP section of like what looked like, I guess, a movie theater. So it looked like we were at a premiere. So I guess it like kind of looked like good B-roll footage if we're talking about like the film deal. And then I'm sitting there with Santos, and it was just kind of, we were pissed. I mean, so it goes on for like a few hours, and it was horrible. It was torturous. You know, there were certain points where Santa's like, hey man, I'm out of here, and he just left probably like 13 14 minutes into it. We stayed through the whole thing. I mean, because we had come all the way down there, and Zach's just looking at me, he's like, where's Quentin? And like, honestly, I had forgotten like that was the whole reason that we were down there to begin with. There wasn't one person worth meeting there. I mean, you know, I'm not saying that like these people were all worthless, but it's nobody that I would fucking drive. I would come all, you know, I took the Uber down there, but it's not somebody that I would take a car ride 2 hours each way to meet. I didn't care about some guy that had a couple lines in Kill Bill. You know, I was there to meet Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, and Dave was sitting far, so he was like the last one. So like at a certain point, I get up because I'm frustrated because Zach's making fun of me. He's like, where's Quentin? oh, look, it's Quentin. And he'd like point to some like little squirrely guy. He'd be like, eh. And, you know, we'd start laughing. And the guy would get all self-conscious because he'd just see this group of like so-called like VIP talent scouts looking at him and laughing. But he didn't really, these people didn't have a clue that we were just making fun of the fact that Quentin Tarantino wasn't actually there. So eventually I asked Dave and I'm like, hey, Dave. He's like, yes. Are you enjoying? Did you see that guy over there? He was in Kill Bill. Told you. I said, yeah, dude. Super impressive. Where's Quentin Tarantino? He's like, he'll be here any minute. He usually comes at the end because he doesn't want to distract the actors. He comes every month. He'll be here. He'll be here. Don't trip. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, we're like hours into this at this point. So, you know, so I relay that back to Zach. I'm like, hey, I guess Quentin's still coming. Zach's like, Brian. The Uber cost me about $400. I just hope you know that. I hope you know that. And he's like being a good sport. He doesn't care about the money. So night goes, finishes, and at the end, we all got a chance to talk to them, you know, give us the microphone. And so I was pissed. Quentin Tarantino had never shown up. So when I get the microphone, I go up and put this chick on blast, you know, like I go to the stage and I go, okay. Just want everyone to know I am not casting for any movie. I'm a novelist. I know nothing about the film industry. I was basically brought here because that lady right there said that Quentin Tarantino was going to be here. And everyone was like, you could tell that everybody was like, what? Like, you know, like we'd been duped by her and they'd been duped by her. I said, secondly, she said that I'm casting for Idiot Savant. You know what Idiot Savant is? It's a documentary about my life. There's no acting in it. She hustled us to sit here to try to impress you guys. And I'm like mid sentence, and all of a sudden the oldies go back on, you know, and it's like it's the do you really want to hurt me? And I was like, you know, the shit, you know, we're like, oh my god, dude. And like that song's just like reverberating throughout the thing, and she's just blasting it. Like if it was on like a 6 before, it's on like a 15 now. It's like hurting our ears, and she's beat red, this darling, and she's just looking, and she comes up and she just hugs me instead of saying anything. She just hugs me. She's like, "You little dago fucking wop," which is like an old derogatory term for Italians that like WAP means without papers. It's shit that they used like Ellis Island era New York, like back in like 1915 or what, you know, way back in the day when Italians used to be the ones that were you know, that like how a lot of Hispanics are treated now. That's like how Italians used to be. It's like a very outdated diss. Oh yeah, well you're a fucking dago wop, you bitch. She's like, you fucking dago wop. She looks at me and she's like, you have no idea who I am. I said, oh no. Oh no. I know damn well who you are. I see it. I see exactly your whole get down. And to try to save face, she just kisses me right here. This big old pink like lipstick fucking lips go on me, and I'm like, get off of me. I'm like, let's go. And Zach had filmed all of this, and so we go to leave, and we're like walking out. We're going down the stairs, and I'm looking back up, and I'm seeing the Kill Bill guy just surrounded by these little actresses, and they're so star-eyed, and like I could just see, I mean, this is this guy's sleazy way to get laid on a Friday night or whatever it was. And Zach had filmed all of this, and we'll get into what happens in the next part of this saga in the next video. Um, we're just about at the point where the breakdown series is going to start, and it's not that long. I don't know. It's like 3 to 5 videos. I want to say maybe more. I'm not really sure. I'm not, there's quite a bit to it, but the reason, as I keep saying, because everyone's like, we want to hear the prison shit. Okay, I'm not a prison channel, so the more you say that, the less I want to get to that quickly. I don't want to, like I understand that a lot of you like that. If you don't like this part of it, then don't watch it. But there are enough loyal supporters of mine. Like I've gotten to the point where a lot of people say just talk a lot of shit on YouTube. On Patreon, it's not like that at all. I have it's getting closer to 500 people now on there. It's a really good community, really supportive. We've had a chat room in there before. We do polls to figure out like what to do next. I had them choose like what exclusive series they wanted for the $10 tier, and also for the $20 tier. I'm figuring out exclusive storylines for those tiers. I'm trying to make it worth it for each tier, including the sponsors $100 tier. But YouTube, it just seems like people just they can't really be happy with what I'm putting out. It's not everybody, it's a minority of people, but there's people, oh, like when I had Ryan Romnerace, you talk too much. Then when I had other guests on, I don't talk enough, and it's my channel. We're here to watch you. Why don't you talk more? With Ryan, he was one of the top 3 influential people in my life. I just felt like he really deserved that long of a monologue introduction because he's one of the most positively influential people I've ever known in my entire life. Seems like there's a lot of immature people that don't really understand that, but there's people that support me. So anyway, the point is it's really been making me want to be like, you know what? Fuck YouTube. I don't really want to do it anymore because so many people talk shit. But I have to remember that a lot more people support me than not on YouTube, and there's people that have been here since the beginning. I make enough money off Patreon where I definitely I don't make shit off YouTube. I don't make any. It's not worth the amount of time that I put into it. But I do appreciate everybody that's been here since the beginning. So I'm going to continue to put everything on YouTube. Like these storylines. There'll be exclusive storylines on Patreon. It's $3 a month. I really encourage you to try it if you haven't, or at least go look at the site and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. I put a lot of extra stuff on there. And one of the reasons that I'm going into the pimping and pandering so extensively, and then the breakdown, which is about to happen, where I had like a mental breakdown called the FBI, and was like hallucinating, and I thought people were like trying to kill me in helicopters. It got pretty hardcore. All the stuff that happens in that period pretty much plays a very, very important role in the 3rd prison series. And then after that series, I have a shitload of more series that I'm going to do, stuff that I haven't done yet. Patreon knows about all this. So that's why I do it. People are saying, oh, your content's falling off. Okay, whatever. I got like almost 500 people on Patreon that actually support me. And I know a lot of you on YouTube do as well. But it's just, the reason I'm doing it is because it's going to set up the next series so well. You'll know when we get there why. So for the people that appreciate everything in its totality, you appreciate my content, you've been with me since the beginning, I really do value you guys. And I'll continue putting stories on YouTube. I'll continue putting interviews on there when I have them. I'm about to do one with Mickey Avalon on Friday. And I really do appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you haven't checked out Patreon, go do it. $3 a month is 10 cents a day. Ask anyone on there. I put stuff on there every single day. It's consistency. Stuff that I put on there comes out on YouTube much later. And there's other exclusive storylines. Once you get on the upper, $10, $20 tiers, there's more exclusive stuff as it goes up. All right. Sorry for the long rant. If you don't like this particular series and you're just interested in prison stuff, you just want to hear about all the prison stuff, then just don't watch these series. When I get to the prison stuff, then tune back in. And I do appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. Continue to stay safe. Wash your buttholes. If you don't have Hep C, you're a cop. Doesn't matter how small your dick is if you have a bomb personality. Stay hot, stay tan. Palabra.